Tonight we drift through Elden Ring at a calm pace, letting the lands between speak for themselves. Do you know how to build the hidden boss deep in Siofra so the arena finally wakes? Or which single event tears a fresh crater into Limgrave to reveal a city below? Settle in, breathe, and see how many of these Elden Ring facts you actually know. I bet it's not all of them. Siofra hides a boss you have to build. Light all 8 braziers across the underground river valley, and Hollowhorn Grounds wakes. Only then does the regal ancestor spirit exist. Siofra River sits beneath Limgrave like a night sky turned inward. Bioluminescent reeds, horned totems, ruined altars under a ceiling of false stars. In the center, a stag lies on a stone bier, an arena with no fog gate and no prompt. The pillars around the basin hold shallow bowls and stone flutes. Ignite one, and a column of cold fire hums a single note. Ignite a second, and harmony begins. By the third, the pattern is clear. The valley is an instrument, and lighting is the performance. Roots between flames teach the map. Ancestral followers patrol root bridges and terraces, antler helms catching the blue glow. Spirit deer stand still, then bolt, tracing indirect lines toward the next tower if you watch their exits. A brazier waits in mist above a waterfall. Another hides behind a collapsed column half swallowed by reeds. A cliffside bowl exposes you to archers until the wick catches and the tone thickens. The count is never stated. You count because geography forces attention. With the 8th brazier burning, the air holds its breath. Back at Hollowhorn Grounds, filaments of light seam the stag's frame, unthread, and gather midair. Hooves touch down without weight. Antlers sketch constellations before the body follows. The regal ancestor spirit moves like recollection given shape, gliding in long curves, pausing to realign, then sweeping forward with a horned arc that asks for rolls through, not away. Attacks read as forms you can time. A drifting charge blooms into a lateral sweep, a rear stalls, then drops like a curtain. Blue fire rolls along the stones as a low wave. Punish landings, not starts. Roots stamp lanes that cue spacing. Pillars break sightlines for a heartbeat. The 8 flames tint every exchange with cold light. Greed gets checked by a ghost body veer that slides past shields and snaps shut on late swings. Keep discipline and the fight feels ceremonial. Precision over panic. The arena honors patience with rare moments. The spirit sometimes calls spectral fauna that cross the floor in silence, a procession you can ignore or use as cover to reset angles. Its leap can carry it over you into a slow pivot that gifts 2 clean strikes to the hindquarter. Jaw hits stagger faster than ankle taps. If the head dips, step in, tag twice, leave. When the health bar empties, the body unwinds back into glow, and the bier lies still, as if a story returned to sleep. Loot matters, but the lesson is structural. Some encounters aren't found, they're assembled. The world waits with pieces in plain sight and expects you to complete the song before it answers. Ride the lift back up, and the surface sky looks ordinary again. Below, a star you constructed has already gone out. If you return later, the pillars still burn, and the shrine is quiet. A reminder that Elden Ring sometimes hides entire boss fights behind rituals the map will never name, and that listening to a place can be as powerful as any key. Killing General Radahn edits the overworld. His death pulls a star out of the sky, and that meteor punches a new crater into Limgrave, tearing the ground open and exposing the descent to Nokron, Eternal City. Redmane Castle frames why this can happen. Radahn, the Star Scourge, holds the constellations in place by brute will. When the festival ends in his fall, the night resumes motion. A flaming arc rips across the firmament with the sound of grinding iron, vanishes past the tree line, and leaves a drift of ash over Mistwood. If you return to Limgrave, the map has a wound where there wasn't one yesterday. The impact site lies south of the Mistwood ruins. Plates of earth lean inward like broken ribs. Boulders hang in mid-air as if the star forgot to finish falling. The path spirals down through shattered ledges and suspended debris, moonlight bleeding into the fault. Stone gives way to slate roofs. Columns appear below the rock, then courtyards, then a horizon of pale statues. Nokron announces itself without a loading screen, an entire city unsealed by an astronomical event. The descent works as a tutorial for the place. You traverse collapsed causeways that were once ceilings, use fallen arches as ramps, and thread between chunks of street frozen mid-tumble. Messages and bloodstains map the safe drops. The absence of fog gates keeps the scale honest. This isn't a dungeon you enter, it's the underside of a world you changed. Nokron's first encounter mirrors the breach. A mimic version of the player stands where a normal boss might, reflecting gear and habits back at you. From there, plazas and alleys stretch under a false sky. Silver tears pool like mercury. A cathedral sleeps behind shuttered doors, and stairways point towards secrets you couldn't have reached until a star moved. The change persists topside. NPCs remark on the fall. The plume over Mistwood lingers. Floating rubble marks sightlines you know from the game's first hours, now altered by a decision made far away. No key toggled a door. A war in Caelid carved a stairwell into Limgrave. Routing shifts around this fact. Players who explore early see only forest where the canyon will be, assume the province is exhausted, and move on. After Radahn, Limgrave becomes vertical, the crater temps returns, speedrunners plotted into lines, and late-game quest threads rely on a gateway that didn't exist at the start. One victory becomes a chisel. The walk itself sells the scale. Crickets and wind fade to the soft echo of boots on slate. A balcony that looked decorative from above becomes a platform in a platforming line. A statue glimpsed years of playtime ago turns out to be the corner of a district. The world feels continuous because the edit is physical. Stand at the rim and look down, a city hidden by gravity and pride, opened by a falling star. Elden Ring rarely rewrites terrain. Here it does, and the map keeps the scar. You leave Redmane with a trophy. Limgrave keeps the crater. Nokron waits where the sky decided to land. After dusk, the lands between change species. Deathbirds rise from grave mounds, knights' cavalry claim the roads, and at certain shacks and churches, a merchant vanishes so a bell-bearing hunter can stand in the doorway. Rest until nightfall, and the same coordinates become a different hunt. The roads teach it first. By day, soldiers march and trolls drag wagons. At night, mounted silhouettes patrol the same routes in black barding. Knights' cavalry ride near a Geel Lake north in Limgrave, sweep the Gatetown bridges in Liurnia, and prowl Altus's Grand Avenue, lanterns dim, weapons built to unhorse you even on Torrent. Their pacing is territorial. Clear one and another still circles elsewhere, keeping the feeling that the country enforces a curfew. Cliffside shrines and churchyards handle the rest. Deathbirds perch on ruined bell frames and crooked crosses, motionless until you step inside their radius. Weeping Peninsula fields one on the approach to Castle Morn. East Liurnia's grave terraces host another. Caelid offers a larger, wrong sky variant. The fights land heavy, ribs bloom into blades, long necks snap forward, a cry that chills before it hits. Return by day and the perches are empty, only wind across stone. The sharpest shift happens at doors you thought were safe. In Limgrave, Warmaster's shack opens for lessons by day. Return after nightfall and the fire is guttered, a bell-bearing hunter waiting inside, blades orbiting like iron moons. Variants repeat at an isolated merchant's shack in Dragonbarrow, at a hermit's hut above the Altus Canyon, even at a quiet Liurnian church. Win and you take a bell-bearing that lets the Twin Maiden husks sell that NPC's stock. Commerce rerouted through violence. Lose and the room stays hostile until dawn. Tells are consistent. If a location feels like a tutorial space or a merchant stop, check it again by night. If a bridge seems overbuilt for nothing, expect hooves. If a grave field looks arranged for ceremony, look up. Time acts like a key. Change the hour and the encounter table flips. Mounted combat completes the grammar. Torrent's double jump clears shock rings and breath lines, turning knights' cavalry into jousts. Against deathbirds, fighting on foot is safer. Roll through wing slashes and punish the landing, then remount to reposition when the arena gets crowded. Bell-bearing hunters punish flasking and backsteps. Guard counters and stance breaks buy the riposte you need before their blades start orbiting again. The map supports experimentation. Almost every site of grace allows pastime, so testing a theory takes seconds. Bloodstains near a door at night signal a hunter. Message clusters on a bridge hint at cavalry. A ring of graves lit only by moonlight foreshadows feathers. Stakes of Marika sit nearby for quick rematches, turning failure into a short loop rather than a penalty hike. This clockwork affects roading. A road cleared at noon isn't finished if you never saw it under stars. A church that seemed empty is a boss room 8 hours later. A merchant's hut becomes a mini-boss arena with a permanent shop upgrade as the prize. The world doesn't just look darker at night. It obeys a different ecology. Set the time, retrace a familiar path, and the map answers with new predators. In Elden Ring, night is not quieter, only truer to what the landscape was always built to host. A great rune does nothing until it is restored atop a divine tower. Power as pilgrimage, not automatic reward. Defeat a shard bearer, hold their rune, and it sits inert until the tower that remembers them relights it. Only then can it be equipped at a site of grace and awakened with a rune arc. Stormveil proves the pattern. Godric falls, his misshapen sigil enters your inventory, and the bridge to the divine tower of Limgrave opens. The approach is a gauntlet of stone colossi. Inside, an elevator well rises through hollow ribs of masonry. At the crown, a restoration altar glows. Touch it, and Godric's rune flares back to life. Equip it, consume a rune arc, and every attribute lifts at once. Small increases that translate to heavier armor thresholds, new weapon requirements, and sturdier checks against early bosses. Die, and the blessing drops. Spend another rune arc to bring it back. The rule repeats with different philosophies. Radahn's rune is dead weight until the divine tower of Caelid, a sunburnt spire ringed by putrid guards. Restored, it swells maximum HP, FP, and stamina, a long fight cushion that lets heavy builds breathe. Rykard's answers in the West Altus Tower. Once remembered, it restores health on enemy kills, turning mob zones and long dungeons into sustained loops. Morgoth's emphasizes vitality, pushing maximum HP further for late capital routes. Millennia's teaches aggression. After restoration, attacks made shortly after taking damage steal back life, rewarding immediate counter-pressure. The climb is part of the cost. Some towers unseal only when the correct lord is down. Others hide difficulty inside, narrow parapets without rails, sentries placed to punish impatience, or a single elite sized for the chamber. The act reads like ritual: ascend, recall, receive. Divine towers are not commemorations, they are batteries that recharge what you took. Activation is two-step even after the memory returns. Great runes slot at graces like talismans, but they lie dormant until a rune arc is consumed. Arcs are rare at first, then renewable through exploration and PvP. Spending one turns the rune's text from passive promise to active state. The design asks when to switch it on, before a legacy dungeon, for a boss weekend, or simply as a standing buff if you can keep deaths low. There are exceptions that prove the rule. Renala's Great Rune of the Unborn never visits a tower at all. It does not pair with rune arcs and offers no stat blessing. Instead, it unlocks rebirth in the academy, respexing with a larval tier. Even here the theme holds. A lord's rune grants possibility rather than immediate power, and you travel to the right place to make that possibility real. Because each rune reshapes play, routing shifts around the altars that wake them. Riders fresh from Stormveil sprint to Limgrave's tower for early all-stat lift. Explorers who brute-forced Caelid make the hazardous trip back for Radahn's resource surge before tackling mountaintop sieges. Faith builds favor Rykard's sustain when clearing enemy-dense castles. Glass cannons time Millennia's rally for boss marathons. The system ties victory to geography. A fallen demigod gives potential. A far-off tower converts it. Equip the memory, spend the arc, and the world agrees your win counts, for as long as you can keep it. Volcano Manor lets you refuse the hero circuit. Take assassination letters from the drawing room table, and contracts become progression. Invade targets across the lands between, report back to Tanith, and a hidden audience chamber opens that delivers you straight to Rykard without clearing the manor as a classic dungeon. The invitation is quiet. Tanith offers a seat by the fire and a sealed letter with a red stamp on your map. The first mark is Old Knight Istvan in Limgrave. Touch the summon sign and you invade as a recusant. No fog gate, no corridor, just a duel on foreign ground. Win in the house pays, equipment, ashes, magma sorcery. A second letter replaces the first. Riley the Idle waits in Altus, a cliffside knife fight tuned for spacing and patience. A third mark, Juno Hoslow, arrives when you're deep into the north. Twin whips and bleed as a thesis you must interrupt. Each contract is a compressed lesson. Read a build, break it, return for wages. Between letters, the manor stays still. Yes, there's an old-fashioned route, hidden walls, lava basins, roof crawls, and albinoric snails, but the stationary keeps insisting that hallways are optional. Finish enough work, and Tanith invites you past a locked door to an audience path teleporter. Use it, and the caldera opens under your feet. The Serpent Hunter's spear lies ready in the arena, proof the world expects someone to arrive like this. What would normally be the endpoint of a legacy dungeon becomes a meeting arranged by mail. Targets sketch a worldview in miniature. Istvan is poise and pressure, challenging guard counters and timing. Riley hides behind ledges and lobs knives. You learn to deny space. Hoslow's twin chains test bleed management and role discipline. Along the way, side talk with house members. Bernahal by the hearth, a sorcerer brooding in a side room, frames recusancy as creed, not hobby. The manor treats killing for contract as respectable work, and pays accordingly. Magma shot, Gelmir's fury, Hoslow's whips, and armor that smells faintly of smoke. Consequences ripple. Some non-player characters back away if you wear the sigil, others only open up because you do. The round table murmurs when you return. Progress flags flip without a single main quest directive changing color. You learn that Elden Ring's roots are verbs, not lines, invade to advance, rather than cleanse to advance. The difference shows up on the map as red marks instead of golden ones. You can still play the saint, clear the manor the slow way, refuse the letters, refuse the audience, but the alternative remains valid and complete. Contracts bypass chunks of dungeon friction, deliver unique rewards earlier, and land you in front of a lord with a weapon designed for that stage. When Rykard rises, the fight is operatic, a colossus and a spear, but how you arrived is the point. A polite conversation in a salon turned into a straight line through the mountain. Leave by the same teleporter or finish the old routes later. The house won't judge either way. Volcano Manor proves the lands between honors different ethics as different paths. Take lives for signatures and seals, and the world opens doors that stay shut for saints. Roderica unlocks upgrades for Spirit Ashes, but only if you guide her from Stormhill Shack to Roundtable Hold and nudge a blacksmith to teach her. Do it, and ashes grow from +1 to +10 with Grave or Ghost Glovewort, turning early trinkets into reliable partners. She waits in a wind-battered hut on the road to Stormvale, red hood low, speaking softly about friends taken by grafting. The map points to a castle. The game hides a support class in a conversation. Exhaust her dialogue, then carry proof that the living and dead can still touch. In Stormvale's refuse lies the Chrysalid's memento, a charm pulled from the grafting chamber's pile of limbs. Bring it back. The gift steadies her. Next time you arrive at Roundtable Hold, she's there, uncertain, seated opposite the anvil where Master Hugh hammers eternity into iron. The hold becomes a triangle. Speak to Hugh about the girl's gift. He grumbles that he can sense something in her. Tell Roderica, she doubts. Return to Hugh and insist. He relents, promising to show her how not to squander it. After a few rests, chairs are empty, and a new workbench gleams where she sat. The title Spirit Tuner appears beneath her name, and a menu opens that was missing before. Mechanically, the bench is clear and demanding. Grave Glovewort strengthens common spirits. Ghost Glovewort strengthens renowned ones. Each tier asks for more blooms and runes. The change is visible in the field. Lone Wolf Ashes +1 distract. At +10, they survive AU sweeps, nip posture, and buy windows you can plan around. Skeletal Militia crumble, then knit back together with fuller bars. Banished Knights hold aggro against giants long enough for glass cannon builds to finish channels. Named Ashes scale in identity. Oleg anchors lanes. Tish bleeds bosses. A mimic tier mirrors your kit with greater stamina and poise at higher ranks. The loop turns collectibles into progression. Catacombs you skipped become gardens for Glovewort. Bell bearings reroute upgrades to the round table if you miss a bloom. A player who ignored summons can try one with intent and feel the difference immediately. Fights shift from panic trades to set plays. Doorway holds, Boss staggers chained off spirit crits, status procs accelerated by two bodies working the same idea. Roderica's voice tracks the craft. At first, every upgrade sounds like a question. As the tiers rise, her lines carry confidence and fatigue, the tone of someone who works at the border between breath and memory. Hugh calls it foolishness, then forges the tools anyway. Their workstations face each other like two halves of a single craft, steel and spirits, blades and companions. Nothing here is loud. No cutscene declares the system. The proof is your next dungeon, where a tuned ash doesn't evaporate at the first roar, and your next boss, where a stagger lands because a spirit kept pressure while you circled for a punish. Even failure costs less. A spirit pinning aggro turns a death run into a lesson instead of a sprint. Guide the girl, make the introductions, rest until the bench appears. From then on, every glovewort you find is a promise, and every bell ring is a choice about how you want to fight to feel, alone, or with a memory sharpened into something that can stand beside you. Elden Ring hides a second health bar you can't see. Stance, guard counters, jump heavies, and charged hits stack invisible posture damage until a metallic crack drops even armored giants for a riposte. Inputs are simple and deliberate. A guard counter is block, then heavy the instant steel meets steel. It front-loads impact without needing big AR. Jump attacks land heavier than grounded swings and ignore some shield wobble. They're clean openers over slow horizontals. Charged heavies bank force in exchange for time. Release into recovery, not startup. None of these need to shave much white HP. They write debt on a hidden ledger that the stagger pays off in one moment. Weapon class changes how fast you reach that moment. Colossal blades, great hammers, and halberds write big numbers per hit. Light weapons need more clean contacts but can feed the bar safely with speed. Two-handing increases poise damage and trades block for breaks. Ashes of War that emphasize mass. Lion's Claw, Flame of the Redmanes, Ground Slam variants exist to bully posture, not to win HP races. Spellblades aren't excluded. Rock sorceries, carrion great swords, and certain bestial casts carry enough impact to chase the same crack. The game telegraphs when you're close. Heavy enemies start to flinch longer. Shield arms sink lower. Backsteps lose snap. One more clean note finishes the phrase. When it lands, the audio answers. An iron snap, and a bright point blooms on chest or face. Cancel greed, close distance, and take the critical. The riposte outvalues the extra swing you wanted. Timing beats volume. Guard counters are best early in an enemy's string, when recovery is generous. Jump heavies live over bosses with slow, sweeping openers. Place the landing as the weapon passes beneath you. Charged heavies belong after big whiffs, during roar animations, or when stance is already wobbling. If you're late, roll through the punish and reset rather than trading. The ledger doesn't decay instantly. This grammar turns scary elites into scheduled openings. Crucible knights fold if you answer shield rams and tail flicks with weight. Tree sentinels buckle from repeated pass-throughs on their weapon side. Even dragons kneel if enough hits land on the head. Jaw taps move the posture bar faster than ankle chips. In dungeons, a single jump heavy into a guard counter can drop the loudest mob before the room collapses. Defense uses the same logic. Blocking forever builds your own posture damage. Chip plus repeated impact will stagger you. The fix mirrors the offense. Meet a hit, answer with weight, and reset spacing on your terms. Parrying does the extreme version. Instant stance break for a crit. But the heavy kit path is safer and broadly applicable. Build scale into it. Poised talismans buy the courage to trade for a counter. Blood Flame and Frost pair well. Status ticks damage, while heavy notes chase the crack. Stamina flasks let you chain jump heavy into guard counter without gasping. Once the ear learns the sound, fights reframe. You're not just draining bars, you're composing toward a drop. Place heavy notes. Block, heavy, jump, heavy, hold, release. Listen for iron to snap, then step into the opening the game promised. Accepting the three fingers embrace brands you with the frenzied flame and forces the Lord of Frenzied Flame ending, unless you later purge it with Miquella's needle. The door to this covenant only opens if you strip. No armor, no weapons, no talismans. The route lies under Lane Dell. From the avenue balcony, drains lead into the subterranean shunning grounds. Brick tunnels, omen patrols, ladders that feel like penalties. A tomb shaft drops through coffins and rusted rungs to a sealed door in a chamber called the Frenzied Flame Prescription. Approach clothed, and the stone stays shut. Unequip everything, and the seal recognizes a body offered without protection. The slab yawns, heat rolls out. 3 colossal scarred fingers slide forward like a blessing set on fire. Contact is an event. The screen whites, the brand burns into chest and eyes, and a new icon settles on the HUD. From that moment, touching the fractured Marika at the end roots you to one conclusion, regardless of what other threads you've tended. No Age of Order, no moonlit vows, no mending runes. Companions notice. Some refuse further aid. Dialogue in Roundtable Hold cools. The game treats curiosity here as consent. Relief exists, but it demands its own pilgrimage. See Millicent's story through, receive the unalloyed gold needle, defeat millennia, and transmute the needle at the scarlet flower into Michaela's needle. Carry it to crumbling Farum Azula and use it in the arena where Dragonlord Placidusax waits. The brand breaks, the icon vanishes, and endings reopen. 2 secrets stacked. One paints the finale over, the other scrapes it clean. The flame's tools match its doctrine. Frenzy incantations climb from I-beams that rake halls to shockwave detonations that turn doorways into punishment. They scale with faith in mind and chew through groups when patience fails. The path to the door foreshadows them, yellow glyphs on walls, whispers about eyes, Hieda's grapes, and sun-staring sermons. None of it is a tutorial, it's a dare. Even the mechanics emphasize body. The requirement to strip is more than a gimmick. Most covenants accept a token. This one wants skin. Unequipping clears buffs and talismans, erases armor habits, and forces stillness at the threshold. When the embrace lands, you are marked, not dressed. An identity applied beneath any gear you put back on. Back in the tunnels, doors you passed earlier seem different. Madness build-up signs punctuate brick. NPC invaders with frenzy tools appear in mean corners. The shunning grounds name itself, honestly. The city threw its uncertainty down here and locked the lid. You opened it. If you refuse the cure, the brand carries to the throne. The finale's cut shifts tone. A world-devouring fire framed as mercy, ash as erasure, your name recast as answer to suffering by subtraction. If you cleanse it, the same room becomes a choice again, and other paths you prepared wake up as options. The sequence is blunt and precise. Strip to be recognized. Accept the burn, and every other promise goes quiet. Thread a rarer needle in a storm-racked place, and the quiet lifts. Elden Ring hides a body-gated switch deep under its capital that can repaint your ending with one decision, and it trusts you to understand what it asks. One weapon can be many builds. Ashes of War transplant a skill, and affinities retarget scaling, turning the same blade into keen, dex, heavy, STR, quality, blood, bleed, ARC, cold, frost, INT, sacred, holy, FAI, and more without changing its moveset. At any site of grace, standard armaments open a menu with 2 choices: the skill, the verb, and the affinity, the grammar. Slot, Hoarfrost Stomp, and choose Cold to add frost buildup and intelligence scaling. Swap to Seppuku with Blood to push hemorrhage, and lean into Arcane. Replace both with Sacred Blade, and the sword becomes a faith sidearm that cleaves undead cleanly. The geometry of light attacks stays the same. The numbers and status lines don't. Wet blades expand the vocabulary. The iron wet blade unlocks heavy, keen quality. Red hot adds fire and flame art. Fire with faith scaling. Glintstone adds magic and cold. Sanctified adds lightning and sacred. The black wet blade adds poison, blood, and occult. Each sits where it makes sense. Forge yards, academies, sanctified ruins, so exploration literally widens what your favorite weapon can become. Rules shape the edge cases. Unique or special weapons keep their bespoke skills and don't accept affinities. They scale through upgrades and talismans instead. Standard weapons are clay. Some ashes are weapon class bound. Thrust-only skills need thrusting arms. Colossal-only skills bind to colossal types, but most canvases are broad. A humble longsword can travel across Dex, Faith, Frost, and Bleed identities in minutes. Numbers tell why this matters. A heavy greatsword on a strength build jumps in AR and staggers earlier, the same sword as Cold Procs Frost, first burst for damage, lingering debuff for more hits, and scales from intelligence. An Uchigatana with Seppuku, Blood, becomes a boss melter by stacking Hemorrhage. Toggled to Keen, it trades status for reliable raw damage and stamina economy against agile targets. Occult preserves innate bleed on certain weapons while scaling with Arcane, freeing points from strength dexterity for vigor or mind. Duplication keeps favorites portable. Lost Ashes of War copy a skill so Seppuku can live on 2 blades, or Lion's Claw can jump from Greatsword to Great Hammer loadout. Because applying and removing ashes costs nothing, testing is the point. Infuse, swing, check the AR, feel stagger thresholds and status timings. Try again. Buildcraft becomes editing instead of hoarding. Affinity isn't just damage, it's routing. Early Keen pushes you through dex gates on light armor and fast weapons. Mid-game Cold pairs with sorcery. Staff in offhand, Frost procs on the front line. Sacred answers skeleton dungeons and holy weak bosses while enabling incantation hybrids. Blood turns catacombs and field bosses into time bombs if you can keep contact. Loadouts flex per region rather than per character slot. Synergies multiply. Guard counterplay loves heavy and impact ashes that bully posture. Status plans stack, poison softens, blood detonates. Cold reopens damage windows after the frost reset. Flask mixes and talismans knit it together. Axe talisman bumps charged heavies on posture builds. Lord of Blood's exaltation spikes damage near bleeds. Shard of Alexander supercharges skill-centric kits. Nothing in the system requires luck once you have a serviceable weapon. Find wet blades, collect ashes, and your favorite form factor follows your stats instead of fighting them. The lands between keeps changing what it throws at you. This is how your steel changes back. Torrent turns field bosses into jousts. A whistle, instant mount, and a double jump that clears shock rings and breath lines convert dragon hunts and open country duels into high-speed hit-and-run loops you can't replicate on foot. The kit is 3 parts: lateral speed, inside hand slashes, and vertical denial. Sprint wide to read the opener, then pass along the weapon side and carve with light attacks from the near hand. 2 notes, peel away, reset. Heavy attacks from the saddle act like short couching runs. Time the release as you cross the hip and posture damage spikes. The double jump is the escape clause. It hops over ground fire, magma ribbons, tail sweeps, and those expanding shock waves that erase roll windows. Used late, it cancels contact and keeps momentum, which is the point. Never stand still next to something the size of a house. Dragons show the grammar. On foot, Aguil's wing buffet and tailspin demand tight invincibility frames. Mounted, you orbit just outside tail range, nick ankles, and jump the wing shock on the last beat. When the head dips for a bite, pass the jaw and tag the hinge twice. When flame draws a line, run parallel until the cone narrows, then cross at the cool edge. Glintstone variants telegraph beams, kite the cast, cut across the mouth as it swivels. Magma worms fill trenches with lava, ride the bank, hop the wake, and punish the rear leg during the cooldown. Every species becomes a root problem instead of a bunker. Human cavalry mirror your toolset. Tree sentinels punish greedy footwork. On Torrent, watch the shield arm enter on the weapon side, land 2 quick swipes, then double jump if the backswing tracks late. Knight's cavalry fight by reach, stay just beyond flail length, step in during recovery, and angle across their flank so their next swing whiffs into empty air. Posture still exists from the saddle. Repeated pass-throughs stagger big mounts and open brief crits even mid-charge. Verticality belongs to the horse. Spirit springs launch you onto ridgelines and over castle walls. The mid-air dash cancels fall damage from heights that would kill on foot. Use springs to start above roosted dragons or to reset when a field boss corrals you against rocks. Dismounting has bite, a jump heavy as you leave. The saddle plunges like a hammer and often steals initiative at close range. Sustain has rules. Torrent takes damage. Raisins heal him. A kill dismount stuns you briefly. A mount death forces a flask to resummon. An intentional trade between your health and mobility. Most weapon skills and many spells function on horseback, but legacy dungeons and interiors disable riding. This is a field privilege, not a universal crutch. The loop is consistent and fast. Bait the big swing, pass the hip, slash twice, jump the punish, reset wide. Watch for long tells, head lowers, wings flare, and aim for jaws and weapon arms rather than armored torsos. If the arena is a lake, ride the shore to drag the boss onto better footing. If it's a road, use posts and camber as turn markers. Torrent isn't just travel, he's a combat lens that rewrites open-world fights into motion problems where timing, line choice, and that second jump beat raw poise. Learn the route, and the countryside becomes a single, continuous arena built for speed. Bell matters. Walking mausoleums with a bell can duplicate any remembrance. Silent, no-bell versions only duplicate non-shardbearer remembrances. Each cathedral on legs works once, so choose before you topple skull barnacles and commit the altar. They appear as stone churches striding through Liurnia's shallows, the Weeping Peninsula's cliffs, and the consecrated snowfield, some tolling, some mute. The puzzle is the same. White, calcified skulls fuse to the masonry. Break enough, and the mausoleum buckles, kneels, and goes still. Belled walkers wear barnacles on the legs. You can circle underfoot and chip them between stomps. Roof-plated variants hide their skulls on the shell. Ride a spirit spring, land on top, and clear the clusters while the structure lurches. Snowfield models drag escorts. Clean the perimeter first, or you'll eat arrows while you work. If the bell is active, the ground shock from its step can stun you off torrent, cut in after a footfall, not before, not. Inside, a single altar glows. Interact and a list populates with remembrances your run knows, spent or unspent. On bell models, the list includes shardbearers, Godric, Renala, Radahn, Morgott, Rykard, Millennia, Mohg, and so on. On mute models, those names vanish. Only non-shardbearer bosses, Regal Ancestor Spirit, Lich Dragon Fortisax, Astal variants, etc. appear. Confirm and the altar goes dark forever. The duplicate returns to inventory as a fresh remembrance you can trade at the Roundtable for the choice you didn't take, or for a pile of runes if the kit doesn't fit. Constraints keep it meaningful. 1 use per mausoleum, 1 duplication per remembrance per playthrough. Spend a bellwalker on a minor boss, and you may strand a shardbearer reward later. Back out if the menu isn't what you expected. The use isn't consumed until you accept. If a reward set includes 2 standout items, a spell and a weapon, 2 weapons with distinct movesets, the walker is how you claim both in one cycle. Route knowledge helps. In Liurnia, a bellwalker wades near the eastern shallows, another trumps the western lakebed. The Weeping Peninsula hosts a bell model on the cliff rim south of Castle Morn. A roof skull variant roams the North Liurnian basin. The Spirit Spring on a nearby islet gives the height you need. Later, the consecrated snowfield fields multiple walkers amid whiteout. Message trails and the toll help you find them in the storm. Mark locations you pass early. Returning with a full remembrance list makes the choice smarter. In the field, play it patient. Stay under the belly on leg skull walkers, strike during the plant, then move to the far leg before the lift. On roof models, treat it like a moving platformer. Short combos, reposition between lurches, watch for stray enemies. When it collapses, get clear. The belly slam deals damage. The system is simple once you hear the bell. Tolling giants fund anything, silent giants fund the rest. Topple the right one, walk the knave, and turn a single victory into a full set. 2 sides of a legend claimed in one lifetime. There's a village of living jars hidden below the Carrion Study Hall, Jarburg, reached by tiptoeing down broken gravestone ledges on the cliff. Here, kindness becomes a quest line. You watch Diallos try to be a protector, and you carry a piece of Alexander home. The descent is quiet. From the study hall's eastern balcony, stone markers jut from the cliff like shelves, step from slab to slab until a terraced hamlet appears. Low cottages scaled for clay bodies, violet beds in neat rows, jars sunning themselves in the grass. A small jar greets you, Jarburg, and asks for a potentate. There's no ceremony to accept it. You rest, return, talk, and keep showing up. The role is time, not titles. If you've met Dialos, first at Roundtable Hold, later disillusioned at Volcano Manor, his road bends here. He arrives in Jarburg uncertain, calling himself Protector, with more hope than skill. The village gives him purpose. He checks on neighbors, rehearses bravery in short lines, and thanks you for stopping by. Progression is paced by visits. Rest, come back, find the next small step waiting. One day the air is wrong. Burn marks scar the path, shards glitter in the grass, jar bodies lie cracked open. Poachers came. The fight is already over. Dialos kneels in the road, bleeding out and apologizing to Jarburg for not being stronger. No boss, no fog gate, just aftermath. When you reload the area, he is gone, and his effects remain. Dialos's mask and Hoslow's pedal whip, heirlooms that tie his failed knighthood to the brother he could never quite match. Jarburg asks who saved the village. You can answer. The moment is small and heavy either way. Jarburg also threads into Alexander's story. You meet him through the game, unsticking him at Saintsbridge, cheering him at Redmayne, honoring his wish for a warrior's end. When his path closes, you take Alexander's innards, somber phrasing for what's left of a proud pot, and bring them here. Jarburg receives them with a ritual gravity that fits the place. Rest, return, and the child leaves you the companion jar talisman on the steps, a quiet gift that empowers thrown pots, Jarburg's way of turning mourning into something useful. The village runs on patience. New lines unlock after rests. A wandering carrion servant sometimes appears and mutters about poachers, a clue you can act on elsewhere. Fields repopulate with flowers, and jar residents resume their slow errands. Nothing accelerates by killing. Everything advances by care. It's a pocket of tone the game rarely sustains. No sieges, no ambushes, just the question of whether you'll keep coming back. Under the blue banners of Korea, Jarburg feels impossible and necessary. In a world that measures progress by blood and runes, this place measures it by visits and promises kept. You climb down a cliff to find a community, you lend it your time, and when violence reaches it anyway, you help tidy the consequence. Then you carry a warrior's memory to a child and leave with a talisman that says the jars remember what you did. One lift has two destinations. The grand lift of Rold raises you to the mountaintops with the usual medallion, but assemble the Haligtree secret medallion and choose Hoist secret medallion, and the same statues rotate to reveal a second route that drops into the hidden path and out into the consecrated snowfield. The halves sit far apart. The left piece hides with a frail Albinoric elder in the village of the Albinorics, disguised as a pot beneath a bridge, voice lowered to a whisper as he presses the charge into your hands. The right waits at Castle Sol, past wolves on wind-scoured walls and a courtyard that never stops howling, where Commander Niall guards the rooftop chest. Slot them together and the disc looks like Dectus's kin until you read the inscription. Rold's floor engravings read what you carry, approach with the standard crest and the statues face outward, chains drawing you up through golden air. Approach with the secret halves and a second verb appears. Selecting it makes the figures twist inward. The platform groans in a different key and the lift lowers into a throat of stone and frost. The transition is geographic and thematic. The sanctioned road climbs into empire. The clandestine one slides under it. The hidden path to the Haligtree is a thin corridor of trust. Snow powders floors that should never see weather. Ghostly footprints of Haligtree assassins mark directions for seconds at a time. A vast shaft splits the dungeon, apparently uncrossable until you realize the bridge is there, invisible, and the wind sketches its outline with blown snow. Rainbow stones, bolts, or glowstones thrown ahead, ping off empty air, drawing an arc of steps where your eyes insist there is none. Beyond the last door, the world becomes white noise. The consecrated snowfield opens as a blizzard where visibility drops to arm's length. Enemies arrive as silhouettes, and even the map piece requires a push through glassy drifts. This is not an extension of the mountaintops. It is a side country with its own economies. A walking mausoleum wandering blind in the storm. A caravan of Albinorics limping toward an end you can interrupt. An Evergaol set like a bruise in the ice. Portals that lead to bloodlit places. Your compass fights you. Your habits adjust. Returning to the lift proves the trick's elegance. Nothing in the structure changed. The statues are the switch, the verb is the key, and the world respects which line you brought to its door. Arrive early with one half and the platform behaves like any other gate. Arrive complete, and it trusts you to know what to ask for without a quest barking the secret. The route rewrites expectations about locks. Not every barrier wants a key, some want a phrase, a different way to hold the same object. The Haligtree medallion doesn't replace Dectus's logic. It hides beside it. One device, two truths. Hoist openly and rise into the Empire's rooftop. Hoist secretly and vanish under its floorboards into a white plain the map never promised. Ortona hides enemies you can't see. Heretical Rise hides a bridge you can't see. Two late-game spaces where progress depends on reading what's missing. Ortona, liturgical town, sits in the consecrated snowfield like a model of silence, alleys glazed with ice, statues holding cold sconces, a gate sealed by a sigil. Touch the Evergaol and the town phases. Civilians vanish, but black knife assassins begin to patrol, invisible while 4 great braziers wait unlit. The task is printed on stone. Light them all to open the way. The fight is learning how to move through an unseen opposition. Look for footprints fluttering in snow. Listen for the breathy stab that comes before bleed takes hold. Use glowstone or the sentry's torch if you have it. It outlines what the eye refuses. Ladder tops and narrow parapets become ambush points. Ring a brazier and don't admire it. Knives land when you lower your guard. Sprint alleys. Slow on rooftops. Drop to reset aggro when you hear a footfall behind you that you can't place. Each flame reshapes pressure. The first forces a vertical route. The second educates across rooftops with long sightlines and crosswinds that swallow prints. The third and fourth tempt panic in open squares where no cover breaks a sudden lunge. When the final fire catches, the central seal hums and the Evergaol pops. The town returns to stillness, and the gate to the Haligtree acknowledges the ritual. Heretical Rise perches on a cliff in the mountaintops with a broken span that everyone knows is a trick. The crossing is there, it's just invisible. Snow on the wind sometimes traces the line. Imp statues at the approach point, not at the tower, but at air. The safe method is methodical. Face the gap, throw a rainbow stone or a glowstone, and listen. A dull clack means floor. A falling tinkle means nothing. Step where it lands, then throw again. The path doglegs halfway. Bloodstains show where impatience goes wrong. Move by sound and small trust instead of by sight. Both locations are clean designs. No keys, no main quest bottlenecks, just spaces tuned to a specific sense. Footsteps and breath for Ordina, snow and echoes for the Rise. The game places stakes of Marika nearby to keep failure cheap and makes the reward feel earned rather than bought. Ordina's completion turns a painting of a town back into a town. The Rise's chest is a sorcerer's prize, confirmation that the bridge existed because you proved it did. The rhythm they teach applies elsewhere. Footprints on sand mean an enemy you can't see yet. Cloud clutter against a cliff may be outlining a walkable edge. Messages are not solutions, but vectors. When the world removes sight, lean on sound, wind, and architecture logic. Walk back through Ordina after the seal breaks, and the same alleys feel readable and human again. Cross the invisible span a second time, and your feet forget they ever hesitated. In both places, Elden Ring trusts perception to be your key. Light the town, draw the bridge. The landscape cooperates when you pay attention. Evergaol's bottle bosses. Step onto a violet sigil in the grass, and the world flips to glass, a round arena, one opponent, instant rematches, clean rewards. The rings sit just off roads and on hilltops, tempting early and returning later as skill gyms. Inside, torrent is barred and spirit ashes stay quiet. You bring only your kit and your reeds. Stakes of Marika wait nearby, so death resets meters, not momentum. The floor is flat or gently crowned. No cliffs to cheese, no pillars to hide behind. It's a laboratory in the open world. Each Evergaol is a moveset clinic. Bloodhound Knight Darrawill and Limgrave opens with lunges that punish late rolls, vanishing then reappearing with a cross slash that's safest if you dodge into the blink and punish the landing. Beat him, and you take the Bloodhound's Fang, a curved greatsword whose skill mirrors his step, lesson learned, tool granted. Adan, Thief of Fire, turns Liurnia's ring into spacing drills. Fire pots tossed on arcs, a slow fire pillar cast that baits greed, a flail that circles wide. Survive the rhythm and you earn Flame of the Fell God, a tracking inferno that teaches patience when you cast it yourself. Crucible Knights make the format shine. In a bottle, their shoulder rams, tail whips, and wing bursts read like vocabulary. Shield dip, roll in, tail flick, then wait for the follow. Wings spread, then back off, or eat the fan. Break their stance with jump heavies or guard counters, and the riposte lands exactly where the lesson leads. Many drop aspects of the crucible: horns, tail, or wings. Spells that telegraph like the teacher's moves. Scale changes without changing rules. Bowls, Carrion Knight brings giant feints into sudden flips. Learn to delay your dodge, and the ring feels bigger than it is. Onyx Lords fold gravity waves into swordplay, jump their horizontal rakes, then punish the recovery. Some prisons only answer at night, their sigils dormant by day. Others sit behind soft gates, inviting you to return once a wet blade or level break makes the study fair. Because retries are immediate, improvement is measurable. First attempt, panic rolls and chip. 5th, pattern recognition. 10th, punish on cue. Guard counters after blocked openers pour posture damage into elites. Jump heavies over slow horizontals buy staggers you can feel. Parries on human-sized bosses land with classroom clarity. Casters learn the same discipline: fast glint blades into recovery, bestial slings to tick posture, long casts only after big whiffs. Rewards fit the thesis. Beyond signature weapons and incantations, many rings pay out ashes of war or talismans that deepen the mechanic you just practiced. Charged heavy boosts, stance break tools, or gravity arts that control distance. When the glass shatters and the arena returns to grass, the boss stays gone. The ring becomes a quiet circle you can walk past later, and remember the feel of the timing you earned there. Out in a world of sprawling routes and horseback duels, Evergaols are the clean edge: one room, one dance, no noise. Find a violet disc, touch it, and let the map shrink on purpose. The lesson is in the floor, the tell is in the shoulder, and the reward is a piece of the teacher you can carry. Legacy dungeons are open mazes, castles with multiple lanes, thief paths, and soft locks you outsmart. Stormvale, Raya Lucaria, and Lindell prove the most authored spaces still behave like choices, not corridors. Stormvale declares it at the threshold. Gatekeeper Ghostok whispers about a safer side door, while the main gate bristles with ballistae. Either route works, neither is the whole place. The side path clings to cliffs, past bomb hawks and narrow gutters that turn rooftops into highways. Kicked ladders fold back into earlier rooms. A rusted key upstairs unlocks a door you saw hours ago from below. If you shoulder through the main gate instead, a sprint under bolt fire lands you on battlements that rejoin those same roofs from a different angle. Doors that don't open aren't dead ends. They're promises. A lever groans later, the portcullis thunders up, and a straight line appears where a knot used to be. Raya Lucaria swaps stone for scholarship and keeps the grammar. The Academy Glintstone key is the cover charge. Once inside, the building becomes a stack of options. The water wheel doubles as an elevator, letting you ride through floors you're not on yet. Classroom halls corkscrew into balconies with marionettes waiting in rafters. but step through a window and the roofline curves into a quiet bypass above the lecture chaos. The debate parlor grace looks like midpoint, but a ledge outside its door lets you route behind a sealed courtyard chest and re-enter the library from an unplanned angle. Magic barriers that say no from one side accept yes when you circle around. You're not being funneled, you're learning a building. Landell spreads the idea into a capital. The boulevard is a parade ground, loaded with shield soldiers and lion guardians. A broken window left of the main route is a thief path that runs the colonnades and drops spears onto patrols from above. A dead dragon collapses into a bridge. Spectacle becomes infrastructure. Perfumer houses hide interior ladders that eject you onto rooftops overlooking ballista nests. Tree roots knit a vertical subway from lower streets up into the Erdtree Sanctuary, a living staircase that replaces elevators when you notice how its branches touch balconies. Below, sewers thread a second city that answers different names and futures. The map is layered, not larger. Soft locks do the pacing, locked doors, unpowered lifts, giants parked in tight corridors. Each is a temporary no that becomes a now when you loop from behind. Sightlines teach it. You glimpse a grace across an inaccessible balcony. Later, a kicked ladder turns that view into a shortcut. Stormvale's courtyard gate, Raya's sealed classrooms, Lanedale's branch-blocked balconies. Progress is measured by memory, not UI. Builds read as route permits. Light-footed players take roofs and hedgerows, timing jumps between spear throws. Strength builds brute through guard posts and solve choke points by breaking stance. Sorcerers use long sightlines to clear lanes from above before dropping in. All of them manipulate topology more than stats, hugging parapets, counting patrol gaps, dropping only where the drop won't kill. The result is authored freedom. These spaces feel hand-built down to the chair placement, yet they keep giving you angles, forward through the front door, sideways through gutters, upward across shingles, downward into service corridors. When a great door finally swings open, the sound isn't just victory, it's layout knowledge clicking into place. You didn't ride a ride, you solved a castle. Paintings are treasure maps by composition. Find a canvas, then stand at the exact vista it depicts. When the world aligns with the frame, the painter's spirit appears, bows, and leaves a hidden reward. An easel holds more than a picture. Each canvas carries a title and a view, roofline at a particular slant, a tree biting into the sky, a ruin cropped so a statue's spear bisects the horizon. There are no coordinates, only perspective. Take the painting, then hunt the match in the open world. Elevation matters, distance matters, even the angle of a cloud bank can be the clue. When every line in the landscape overlays the brushstrokes, when a bell tower peaks exactly where the canvas sets it, wind stills, a translucent figure settles into place, and an item that didn't exist a second ago drops into your hands. The method is steady. Start with titles. They hint at districts and moods. Song, resurrection, flightless, Redmane. Words that suggest fields of gold, northern rooftops, broken wings, or a shore facing a war feast. Use the camera like a measuring tool. Pan until the near landmark fills the same proportion of frame, then shuffle in half steps, one to hide a rock behind a fence post, another to sink the horizon by an inch. Crouch if the canvas reads low. If the light in the painting glows like late afternoon, approach the site at the same hour. Shadows help you find the right notch. Clues stack when you're close. Messages cluster at the right ridge. Bloodstains mark near misses where someone stood 2 steps off. Wildlife placement can confirm scale. A grazing sheep or perched hawk in your view can mirror a speck in the art. When the alignment is perfect, the painter arrives for a breath, bows, and fades. The reward reflects the subject. A talisman tuned to the theme, a spell or ash tied to the scene, a rare larval tear when the painting speaks of rebirth. None require combat. All require attention. A few rules keep it fair. You must hold the painting for the ghost to appear. Discovering the vista first doesn't count. The summon spot is always at the artist's footing, not inside the structure they painted. Stand where they stood, not where they looked. Weather can help or hide, snow outlines edges, fog erases distant silhouettes. If the view nearly matches but refuses to click, adjust height. Most solutions sit on a lip of ground just above where you start to look. The shacks that host these canvases become a breadcrumb trail of a life. Early works aim low across ruins and river mouths. Later pieces chase horizons, academies, keeps, battlefields. In following them, you trace someone else's route through the lands between and prove each stop by seeing it as they saw it. The map stays silent about the answers. The frames teach you to read. Stand at the right stone. Let roofs, tree lines, and sky fall into the exact geometry of the paint. When the world and the canvas agree, a ghost thanks you without words and leaves something worth carrying. Treasure unlocked not by a key, but by composition. Var's quest is a side door to late game. Finish his invasions and soak his token in Maiden's blood, and he hands you the Pureblood Knight's medal, a warp straight to Mohgwyn Palace long before the map's main route points there, with rune income that explodes your level curve and a dynasty steeped in blood. He greets you at the first step, then waits at Rose Church in Liurnia beneath torn banners. Accept his creed and he gives 3 festering bloody fingers. Invade 3 times. Wins aren't required. Participation is the proof. Return, and he presses a white cloth, Lord of Blood's favor, into your palm and asks for a stain it can't wash out. You can climb to the Church of Inhibition and use the Maiden there, or take the 4 belfries back to the tutorial chapel and finish an old conversation. Either way, the cloth runs red. Vare smiles, welcomes you among the recusants of blood, and awards the medal. You sit, and the sky goes arterial. The warp spits you into a valley of alabaster mausoleums under a red moon, marble colonnades drowned in bloodlight. Albinorics patrol in clusters along the marsh, slow, brittle, and generous with runes. A giant crow stalks a cliff and can be baited into sprinting off the edge with a well-placed arrow. The fall kills it, the counters climb. Short loops here fund multiple levels per run, new upgrade thresholds, and experimental respecs. The economy feels obscene by design. This is a granary of a would-be empire. The approach to the mausoleum layers the doctrine. Red-robed nobles sway in galleries, priests with needles for hands pump blood flame into the air. A procession of carts lurches beneath reliefs that recite a lineage. The route funnels through Dynasty Mausoleum, midpoint toward a locked door, and a lord who insists he is a king already. Vare's other road doesn't just accelerate your build, it accelerates your exposure to the game's loudest heresy. Threats here punish complacency. Nameless white mask invaders flank the main path and interrupt flasking with bleed pressure. Albinoric shamans detonate scarlet geysers from range. The marsh slows movement just enough to turn easy fights awkward. If you push inward, Mohg, Lord of Blood, waits with trident chains. Blood flame swells, and the ritual curse that carves fixed chunks of health 3 times, announced by a syllable that rattles the room. Counterplay exists. The purifying crystal tear blunts the hemorrhage. But early arrival makes preparation the question you have to answer. The warp doesn't trap you. You can farm and leave, come back later for the fight, or weave the palace into your mid-game as a red-tinted training ground. Roundtable Hold acknowledges your new means. Bell bearings and upgrade paths accelerate because the rune ceiling just lifted. Vare himself circles the thread back toward the palace, his reverence growing sharper in every line until his story ends where the dynasties begins. What makes this road remarkable is how complete it feels. A familiar face at a ruined church invites you into a parallel endgame. Invasions as initiation, a cloth as covenant, a medal as passport. One consumable relocates your grind, your lore, and your next milestone boss to a blood-lit underworld that most players don't see until much later. Take the invitation, and the lands between redraw their difficulty curve to match your appetite, fast, crimson, and louder than the main road ever warned. Rani's quest opens a sky below the map. Follow her thread, and the ground splits to reveal Ainsel River and Noxtella, cities lit by false constellations, and beyond them, an ocean of disease where gravity fails and life dissolves. Progress is gated by a star beast. Defeat Astel, natural born of the void, or the path stays shut. Ainsel River behaves like an underground province. Antlered pillars line caverns the size of valleys. Clay soldiers patrol under a ceiling that pretends to be night. Noxtella stacks silver courts and balcony stairways, lightning teardrops pooling into enemies that split and recombine. Ronnie's doll guides you like a radio with a single station. Sparse lines, precise destinations. Every lift down feels like stepping into somewhere older than sorcery, where the sky is a memory the earth refuses to forget. The thread bends toward the lake of rot, a red basin that treats standing still as surrender. Scarlet rot builds from every step. Healing doesn't stop it, only preserving does. Planning replaces swagger. Craft boluses, slot immunity charms. Carry incantations that purge buildup between sprints. Pressure plates raise square platforms one by one, sketching a dotted path across poison glass. Sprint, jump, cure, repeat, then detour for switches that lift a bridge to the far shore. There's no victory lap here, only a series of measured crossings, while basilisk eyes and centipede priests demand you hurry and aim true. At the Grand Cloister, the river of rot gathers under a cathedral of ribs. Coffins line the banks like ferries for the dead. Climb into one, and the world obeys a different gravity. It carries you down a cataract you never see and sets you at the feet of what fell from somewhere that isn't sky. Astel looks like a fossilized nebula given limbs. Crystal carapace, mandibles that unfold like a telescope, a tail that hides a bludgeon. Its tells are cosmic and cruel. A forelimb lift becomes a lateral laser. A horn glow warns of a gravity well that yanks you forward into a follow-up. A head twitch preludes a meteor shower that rips trenches in the ground on delayed impact. Fight at mid-range to read the beams, then close for head hits after tail snaps. Watch for the teleport. The body vanishes, stars coalesce behind you, and a grab that deletes health arrives from off-camera unless you roll early toward its center line. The arena rewards restraint. Roll through the side of the sweeping beam, not away. Punish after the slam that leaves sparks skating along the floor. When rocks rise, look up. The sky starts falling 3 beats later. Shielding the laser works in a pinch, but the critical damage lives on the skull. 2 clean heavies and back out before the mandibles scissor. Astel's death moves the world again. A seal beyond the arena recognizes the ring tied to Ranni's oath and opens onto the moonlight altar, a plateau under a permanent aurora, where the story closes its loop. The route to that door passes through stars, rot, and a coffin that ignores directions, an itinerary that makes good on Ranni's promise to leave the golden map behind. Underground, the ceiling is a lie, and progress is patience. Read the rot like terrain. Treat the coffin like a bridge. Learn the star beast's timing until a cosmos made of teeth finally stills, and a locked night above it lets you through. Roundtable Hold is a hub outside the map. You don't ride there, you're pulled into it, a pocket citadel that tracks your choices and rearranges its people accordingly. Some thrive, some vanish, some die if you mishandle their threads. The rooms are fixed, the occupants aren't. Enya waits by the great doors to interpret remembrances with the 2 fingers. One-use trades for lord weapons and spells that update as you topple demigods. Across the hall, the twin maiden husks sell basics and absorb bell bearings from the world, kill a merchant or find their bearing, and the shop becomes their tombstone, inventory preserved in a single window. The hold silently records losses and turns them into commerce. Down the steps, Master Hugh hammers at an anvil he's chained to, a blacksmith who forgets his past a piece at a time. If you steer Roderica here from Stormhill and press Hugh to teach her, she becomes Spirit Tuner, opening ash upgrades that sit opposite his weaponcraft like mirrored trades. Their bickering turns into a partnership you can hear in their lines as the story advances. Later, after the Erdtree burns, both change. Hugh slips, Roderica worries, the hall picks up the sound of endings. Gideon Offner, all-knowing, anchors the library. Every lord you fell updates his briefings. Every path you sniff out adds a footnote. He's also a pressure valve. Ask about a name and he'll tell you where the line is before he becomes one of the lines you cross. Nephililu passes through depending on your choices. She can be raised or broken here. Sorcerer Rogier sits quietly with a lead about a corpse under Stormvale. Follow it, and his thread resolves in whispers and sleep. D, Hunter of the Dead, shares a prayer and a warning. Then his armor might pass to a twin after a gentle betrayal if you carry Fia's favor too far. The hold keeps these intersections close, so you feel the cost when one nudges another off course. It isn't safe. Early on, the red phantom Mad-Tongue Alberic invades from the lower balcony, a PvP-styled clinic on spacing and frostbite inside your supposed refuge. Ensha of the Royal Remains stands silent by Gideon's door until you pocket half of the Haligtree medallion. Then he attacks you inside the hold itself, and his armor coldly replaces him. Progress changes who shares this room with you and who doesn't. Architecture hides a riddle. When you reach Lanedell, the fortified manor mirrors the hold's floor plan room for room. The same study, the same kitchen, the same balcony out to a dead tree. One is a memory of the other, or both are echoes. The pocket hub you teleport to might be a sidelined copy of a building that still exists in the capital, implying the hold is less a place than a preserved idea. Time leaves marks. After the burning, the hold darkens and smolders. Ash drifts down stairwells. Doors lock. Certain NPCs move on or fall silent. Ensha is gone. Gideon grows sharper. Hugh's hands slow. The table remains, a grace still lit, and the consequences you've gathered sit in chairs or in empty spaces where chairs used to have names. Roundtable Hold collects your run in one room. Remembrances, bearings, promises, mistakes. The game stacks them where you can't ignore them, then asks you to step back into the world and live with what's now missing from the table. Elden Ring endures because curiosity edits the world and the world replies. A question becomes an action leaves a scar. Players don't just find content, they trigger it. Stars move first, a festival ends, a general falls, and a meteor tears Limgrave open. A forest most players thought finished gains a crater and a staircase into a city that was always there, waiting for the sky to resume. The map doesn't load a dungeon, it remembers a promise and makes good on it. Exploration is not a tour, it is an instrument you play until stone answers. Time is a switch, rest until nightfall and roads change owners. Merchants close, hunters step into their doorways, bridges become cavalry routes, grave fields grow predators. Nothing was hidden, it was sleeping under a schedule. You learn to test hours like keys, to return to coordinates at noon and again at midnight, because the countryside runs multiple ecologies and the clock decides which one is true. Rituals act like verbs. Light 8 cold fires and a stag assembles out of glow and wind. Lift a medallion one way and climb into Empire. Lift it another and drop into a white waste the map never promised. These aren't puzzle doors with one answer. They are devices with two truths, and the game trusts you to bring the right phrase to the right statue. Curiosity here is literacy. Read the place. Use the word it wants. Power is pilgrimage. A demigod's rune sits dead until you carry it to a tower that remembers them. Then spend a rare arc to wake it. A brand beneath the city repaints your ending unless you make a rarer journey to lance it. The system insists that victories are potential, not guarantees. You keep moving after triumph because the world only converts your win when you go where meaning lives. Companions are consequences. Speak gently to a girl in a storm shack, and a new progression tree appears beside an anvil. Lose or save a would-be protector in a jar village, and an empty chair or a talisman marks that choice in a hub outside geography. The hold darkens after fire touches the tree, the roster thins, doors lock. Your run gathers where you can see it, and absence becomes part of the architecture. Combat bends to curiosity as well. Learn the crack that announces a stance break, and even giants kneel on a schedule you control. Mount a spectral horse, and open fields turn into racetracks where dragons lose to line choice and a second jump. The design keeps teaching. Bottle a boss in glass so you can study the tell, then hand you the technique as a weapon. The map is huge, but the lessons are precise. The loop never ends because the world keeps score. You hoist a secret and a blizzard plain opens. You kill a lord and a tower wakes. You wait for night and a hunter answers the door. Small acts, lighting, listening, choosing the hour, flip large states, and the landscape remembers who flipped them. That memory is why the game survives replay, not as a checklist, but as a conversation you can start anywhere and prove by what changes after you asked. Curiosity makes consequence. Consequence invites more curiosity. The lands between stay alive. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe. Also, did you already know all of these facts? Let me know in the comments.